The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Weekly Forecast.
Hey guys, this is a weekly forecast for May 3rd through the 7th of 2021. Okay, we'll start off with the pound dollar. This is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So there was a weak double bottom right here. And since weak double bottoms typically do not go their target heights, which is generally in this area right here, in the long term, I am short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. However, since this double bottom still has a little bit of momentum long, in the medium term, I am long biased right back up to this pivot high as a target. And finally, since I'm waiting for the weekly chart to show some direction, in the short term, I am neutral bias. Okay, so to sum that up, in the long term, I am short bias right down to this pivot right here. In the medium term, I am long bias right up to this pivot up here. And in the short term, I am neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a weekly chart. Let me run you through the setup that I've been looking at for the past couple of months. So there was a strong short trade right here. And then there was a weak long trade right here. So as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries right back down to this pivot low as a target, and that target was hit. Now at this point, I'm waiting for another weekly long trade to form so I could then gauge the strength of it, and if it is stronger than this short trade right here, then that's along with our medium term bias, so I'll take a long right up to our medium term target right up here. However, on the other hand, if this long trade is weaker than this short trade, then I'll be waiting for a pullback up so I could take a short right back down to that new pivot low as the new target. Okay, so this is the basic setup I'm looking at on the pound dollar. However, there was an intraday trade I was talking about last week, so let me take you to the daily chart. Okay, this is a daily chart. So last week I was talking about the last short trade was right here. And if price pulls back enough to decrease our risk, with our stop loss being at this pivot high, I mentioned that I was going to take this short trade. Now price gave us a very nice pullback, and so I took this short right down to its first target right here. Now I'm just leaving a little bit in to see if price could hit the second target right here. Now the second target is based on the 4-hour chart, so let me take you over there real quick. Okay, so on the 4-hour chart, the last long trade was here. And since that short trade I was talking about earlier was based on a daily short trade, I'm targeting the stop loss level of the last 4-hour long trade, which is right here. Okay, so knowing where the long traders set their stop loss, which is right here, is one way in which I typically set my targets. Okay, so let me take you back to the weekly chart to sum this up for you. Okay, but the basic setup I'm looking at on the pound dollar is what I mentioned earlier about waiting for a long trade to form, and then gauging that strength of that long trade. And if it's stronger than the last short trade up here, then I'll take it up right back up to this pivot high up here. And on the other hand, if this long trade is weaker than this short trade, then again, I'll just wait for a pullback up again so I could take it right back down to this new pivot low as a target. Okay, so let's go on to the Euro USD. All right, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since this price action right here is very strong short, and this move right here is still having a ways to go, in the long term, I am short biased right back down to this pivot low as a target. However, since the breakout of this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here, that's right here, in the medium term, I am long biased right back up to this pivot high as a target. And finally, since this move down right here still has a little momentum down, in the short term, I am short biased right back down to this pivot low as a target. Okay, let's talk entries. Alright, this is the weekly chart. Let me show you the setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months. Okay, so there was a strong short trade here. Then a week long trade formed right here. So as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries right back down to this pivot low as a target. And then the same thing happened again. So another week long trade formed right here. So as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries right back down to this new pivot low as a target. And now the same thing is happening again. Another week long trade formed. So at this point, I'm waiting for a pullback as much as possible so I could take a short right back down to this new pivot low as a target. Okay, so some possible levels that I could take this short trade right down to this target are as follows. So try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. It's right next to each other. Now, if we could get some compact price action on this trend line, now this compact price action could be on the daily, 4-hour, or 1-hour chart. Just remember that compact price action must have very small distances between each peak for it to be compact. Then perhaps I may take that trade right back down to this pivot low target right here. However, there are two more scenarios in which I might take this short entry. So let me explain those two. Let me take you to the daily chart. Okay, so on this daily chart, the last short trade that formed was right here. Now this short trade possibly already hit its target at this level right here. Now when trades targets are hit, a lot of times price aggressively pulls back just to stop out the traders that are still short in this trade, and that stop loss level being right here. And so if you recall, I was expecting a strong pullback in this area. However, like I mentioned earlier, the last weekly long trade was in this level right here. Now the weekly short trade stop loss level is way up here at this major pivot high. And so although price hit this target right here, this target was a daily target and not a weekly target. Thus for me, even if price pulls all the way back up here, if it does not reach this pivot high level right here, giving me a minimal risk right here for entry at this point, I will consider taking a short right back down to this pivot low as a target. Okay, so to sum that up, if price pulls all the way back to these levels right here and maintains week-long price action on the lower time frames, I'll be willing to take a short trade right back down here to this target right here with the stop loss at this pivot high. Alright, so now let me show you that last option for that short entry. Okay, so let me just get rid of these and take you to the weekly chart. Alright, so like I mentioned earlier, the last short trade was right here, and this short trade was stronger than this long trade. So, as price pulls back, I'm looking for a short entry right back down to this pivot low. Okay, so at a basic level, if we could get a very strong short trade on the daily chart and above, well, that itself is enough for me to take a short trade right back down to this target right here, because the overall weekly trend is still down in my opinion. Okay, but just recall that this short trade must form on a chart above the 4-hour chart. Now let me explain to you why. I'll take you over to the 4-hour chart. Alright, if you scroll all the way back on the 4-hour chart, you're going to find this huge gap right here. Okay, now even if you know the direction of the overall bias, so let's say a short trade forms on the 4-hour chart, a lot of times when a trade forms in the middle of a huge gap like this, although it might ultimately go down to your target, a lot of times it wiggles around, stops you out, and then goes down. And it's a very difficult situation to have tight stop losses. So that strong short trade that I was talking about must be on a time frame above the 4-hour chart. For example, the 8-hour or daily chart. Okay? Alright, so let's go on to the dollar yen. Alright, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So ultimately, I'm targeting this pivot low right here at 101. But before that, I was talking about the pullback to 107, then to 109, and then down to 101. So in the long term, I'm still short biased right back down to 101. However, because there's a lot of momentum long still left in this move, and I'm waiting for that momentum to slow down, in the short term, I am neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a weekly chart. So the first sign of waning momentum I was looking for are 2 consecutive red candles on the weekly chart, and that was confirmed 2 weeks ago. Now the reason why I wanted 2 weekly consecutive red candles was because this long move to begin with was based on a weekly long trade that formed right here. And so if there's weekly long momentum up, we want to see weekly waning momentum also. Alright, so the next confirmation of waning long momentum was on the monthly chart, so let's go over there. Okay, so on this monthly chart, try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now there was a breakout of this prominent trend line last month right here, which added more momentum long. However, as price pulled back right here, the second sign of waning momentum was for the monthly chart to break back into this trend line, causing a failure of the retest of the breakout. Now, although we got a break back in on the daily chart and the weekly chart, there was not a break back in on the monthly chart, and that was the main confirmation of waning long momentum. Okay, so at this point, in terms of this break back into this trend line, we have to wait another month to see if the monthly chart can break back in to this trend line. But in the meantime, there is another sign of waning momentum we should be looking for, and that's on the daily chart. So let me take you over there. Okay, so the last long trade that formed on the daily chart was right here. Now this daily long trade was very strong. In fact, I have a small position long in this move, however with very small targets. Now I'm taking small targets simply based on the fact that the overall bias is still short in my opinion. So at this point, what we want to see for waning long momentum is for this strong daily long trade to fail. In other words, for price to come back and stop it out at this pivot low right here. Now let me explain to you why a stop out of this daily strong long trade is a sign of waning momentum. So let me take you to the weekly chart. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, this entire move up right here was based on this weekly long trade that formed right here. Now the thing to keep in mind is that when trades hit their target, in this case was that 109 level that I was talking about, after that target is hit, a lot of times price falls right back down to stop out the traders that are still long in this trade, with that stop loss level being right here. So a simple way to know if a trade's target has already been hit is on the lower time frames. If there are strong trades in the opposing direction, in this case long, those trades ultimately get stopped out simply by the aggressive strength down on the weekly chart. So no matter how many lower time frames long trades form, and no matter how strong they are, a lot of times the higher time frames momentum keeps stopping them out. And so if that daily long trade that formed generally in this area gets stopped out, well, that further confirms that this weekly long trade's target was already hit. Thus, we could expect a move all the way back down to at least this pivot low right here. Okay, so let me take you back to the daily chart. Okay, again, the last daily long trade was right here, and it was very strong. If price could come back and stop this level out right here, that increases the possibility that that weekly target was hit. Thus, price will start going down, right back down to stop out those weekly stop losses. Now, if you're having a hard time understanding what I'm talking about in terms of weak trades and strong trades, please watch lessons 1 through 4 on my price action trading course, and that should clear that up for you. Okay, so let's go on to the Nzdusd USD pair. Alright, this is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since this move up right here, starting from this range right here, was solely based on momentum, in the long term, I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. However, since there's a little bit of momentum long left in this move, in the medium term, I'm long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is the 4-hour chart. If you recall, the last long trade that formed was right here, and then many weak short trades formed right here. And so I was expecting a medium strength move up. However, since my ultimate target for the medium term is way up here at this pivot high, I wasn't comfortable with taking this long trade to a target so distant. So at this point, I'm waiting for one of two things to happen for that entry long to that medium target way up here. One is for price to fall all the way back down here and form an even stronger long trade. And then possibly I may take it right up to our medium term target way up here. Now the other option is on the weekly chart, so let me take you over there. Okay, so try drawing these trend lines from this pivot to this pivot right here. And another one from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now if price could pull back and give us nice compact price action on these weekly trend line levels on the daily 4-hour or 1-hour charts, then that's another possibility that I may take along right up to this medium-term target right up here. Now there's a couple of key things I was talking about last week, so let me get rid of these. So last week I was mentioning that price is stuck in this range right here. Now this range is made of many small gaps all over the place. There's one here, small one. There's another one here. There's another one here. There's many gaps in this area. Now when many gaps form in this way, a lot of times price has a lot of trouble getting through it. So if I hypothetically took that 4-hour long trade that was roughly in this area, the first thing I would have wanted to see was for price to get through this level. On the other hand, since I'm waiting for a pullback all the way back to form a stronger long trade, so I could take it right back up to that medium-term target up here, what I want to see is for price to break back out of this weekly range right here. Okay, so I'm keeping an eye out on which way price breaks out of this range for the time being. If it breaks out to the top side, then that open space right up to that first target up here. However, if it fails and breaks back out of the range, well, that'll give a higher possibility of a pullback down, so I could wait for a long trade to form. That's stronger than last time's, so I could take it right back up to our medium-term target up here. Okay. All right, so that's it for the weekly forecast. I hope you guys have a great week, guys. And thanks for watching. Okay, bye.